Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, where or when you are when you're watching this Facebook Live. This is the voice and the face of Dr. Tolu Olabintan, CEO and founder of Livingspring Family Medical Center here in the awesome city of Mansfield, Texas. And today we're going to be doing a live on the topic, Doc, help me help my anxious teenager. My teenager is anxious, help me help them. And our guest is here. Let me see. If I remember correctly, we add, nope, add, there we go, invite, invite to join. All right, so I believe I hit the invite button. There we go.
Yoo-hoo!
Good
Morning,
morning,
good
how are
morning.
you?
Great. How are you, Dr. Tolu?
I am doing good. I am doing good. Good morning. I was just introducing myself to the viewers. I said we're doing another Facebook Live, all in the hopes of helping our patients live long and well. And today we're discussing my teenagers anxious. Doc, help me help them. Thank you for coming, Dr. Terry Nguyen, who's our guest. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you. Kindly introduce yourself to our guests. Who are you and what do you do, Doc?
Thank you, Dr. Tolu, for this opportunity. It's very exciting. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Terry Nguyen. I am a primary care pediatrician who also practices integrative medicine. I was fellowship trained in integrative medicine, and what it means is really how do we put the relationship back into a doctor and patient relationship. We're both doing the work. It's not just the doctor prescribing the treatment for such and such. It's how do we collaboratively work to bring the patient wellness in all domains, mind, body, and spirit, and helping the patient really find that what they have in them to move their health forward. And it's so important, especially when we're working with kids, right? I mean, I'm working with kids from the building blocks of their life to form that firm foundation to move forward into adult life. So it's been very joyous. I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I've discovered over time that my zone of genius is working with adolescents. Yes,
Okay.
most people say that's not where I want to be. But for some reason, I kind of get it. I can jive and I speak their language. And often my patients will say, are you in my head? I'm like, no, but it's good that I'm in your head because then, in my back of my head, I'm thinking, oh, maybe you're going to actually take some of my advice or my wisdom. And so I have worked with teens with anxiety, depression, and I've developed a system with them that has worked really well. It takes time, but
Mm,
what I'd like to do is reach a larger audience than just my immediate patient population
right.
and working one-on-one. I'd really like to move that out to larger groups of adolescents and condense the learning time for them. So there are many different modalities that I've used, and it's taken, months to years, and now I'm trying to compress that learning for them into a shorter amount of time.
I love that. I love that. And I have to say, I also love the niche. I have a little niche for the teenagers too. The youthfulness, they're willingness somewhat to explore, and as they're discovering what their future goals are, and to kind of grow with them, and interesting conversations with them too. Yeah. So awesome. Now, you mentioned a few things as to what you're doing and how long you've been doing them. But I wanted to know why do you do what you do? What was it for you? Is there a story that you could use to kind of like why do you do?
My why is that I am passionate about growth, evolution, and having coaches in our lives. Right? We have lots of different adults in our lives as an adolescent. We have our parents, we have our teachers, we have our coaches, and guess what? The folks who are most effective in kind of nurturing you in your adolescence are probably your coaches, or maybe your teachers. It's someone outside of your immediate family. And I wish I'd known that growing up because I had my parents who I just always felt didn't get me. And then I was such a quiet adolescent. I was an introvert, And so I wasn't seeking help. But then as later, as life transpired, I was in medical school. And then I really was coached by my professors in medical school. And that's when I started thriving. And that's where this passion comes from. What if our adolescents had coaches from the very beginning as they're going through their journey of self-actualization, right? They are separating from their immediate family and they want to know how to come into their own being. So having a non-judgmental coach is going to be so key, and that's where I find my niche for them, is that I am that non-judgmental, non-family member who can coach them along and help them come to their self-actualization of realizing their potential, what they have.
Awesome. You made a very good point about, sometimes it may be outside the family, as far as getting that coaching, getting that mentoring. And I think the mindset for parents that would help with that is understanding it takes a village, and for nurturing an atmosphere where that village is cultivated and intentionally sought out. Because yes, we would love to be the influence to our kids. We want to be that, but it's also good to nurture other avenues for them to seek help if they're deciding that, you know what, I don't really want to come to mom or dad. I kind of want to go somewhere where they're not biased by their obvious devotion to me, and they can be a little more objective. So very, 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 very good point. And for those who are watching live, hashtag live, those who are watching the replay, hashtag replay. And thank you, Yem Rujai, for joining. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. And on to our next question. Doc, what is anxiety for our viewers who are watching, who are like, I don't think I'm anxious. I may worry a lot, but I'm not. What is anxiety?
So stress and anxiety often, get confused or used interchangeably. So what is really anxiety is prolonged stress, chronic stress. So let's go from the very beginning. What is stress? Stress is, that inner drive that that something is happening and you have to react. You have to make split second life or death decisions, right? So that's stress. Now, that's very good because that's what drives and motivates some people to get what they need done. Like, you are not going to complete your schoolwork, your homework assignment, or your project unless you have a little bit of stress, because the stress is going to drive the performance. So the key here is not to have no stress, because no stress, you're not going to be motivated to do anything. There won't be any performance, right? But then imagine this curve that goes up, and then there is a moderate amount of stress that drives you to your peak performance level. Now, once you surpass that peak performance level with your stress, you're on the decline for your performance. And that's where anxiety creeps in, right? Is that you are living under constant high level stress all the time. Your body is in reactive mode all the time. It is fight, flight, or freeze. Every decision is reactive, is split second. You're always using your primitive brain, your amygdala, that is the fight, flight, or freeze response, rather than activating every now and then your more sage and rational mind, where you take in all the data and then you come to an action plan on how to proceed forward. So folks with anxiety, they are often in chronic stress mode. They're clenched. That's how I explain it to my adolescents. You're clenched, your shoulders are up. There is something out to get you. There's fear in every corner of the world. Everything that you encounter is seeming like a life or death situation, whereas in reality, it actually isn't, right? If we were able to activate that sage mind, that prefrontal cortex part of our brain, that's exactly what adolescents are developing, is that prefrontal cortex, so that they can use their sage mind, take in all the data that's present, and then form an informed decision on how to proceed forward.
Okay. Now, how can this present in teenagers? Because you said so that prefrontal cortex is still forming, and still maturing. But how? So for our parents who are watching and like, my teenager, I think is struggling with anxiety, but they're denying it flat out. But what are signs that can present teenagers that parents should be aware of?
Yeah, it is very good point there. It's irritability, constant fear of trying anything new. It may be social anxiety where, group get-togethers are just there's just this visceral reaction. I can't do it. Some teens even have problems going into stores. Okay. Trying new things. Another one, irritability about kind of everything that approaches them. The first reaction. So I always liken this to toddlerhood. Adolescence is toddlerhood, yes, revisited with a larger vocabulary and much more ability to give you lip on the way back, right? But it's the same thing. What were toddlers trying to do? They were trying to gain some self-efficacy. Like, what can I do? Develop their own ability to do things rather than you doing everything for them or with them. Again, in adolescence, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, you know, let's see, separate from the parent and really take control of themselves. But if there's anxiety present, and 1/3 of all adolescents and adults in America have some form of anxiety. So it is not pathological. I really think it is part of the evolution of evolving, but it's problematic when it affects everyday life. Like, you can't go to school because that makes you so anxious. You can't sit at a lunch table because you think all people are, all lights are on you. Everyone's judging you. Everyone's judging you. The world outside is judging you. The situation is judging you, and you're judging yourself. That's where it becomes problematic, because then you're either you're unable to meet challenges and go forward with them, right? Because you are either in I've got to run out of there mode, or you're frozen. You are immobilized. That's how it presents. And then, of course, sleep issues. Like, what are the most common presentations of anxiety in my office? Oh, I go into my bed at 10, but I'm not asleep until 1 o'clock. Is your mind racing? What are you thinking about? What's keeping you up? Or you wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and then you can't go back to sleep. What is your mind clenching onto and deciding to ruminate about? Abdominal pain. Oh my gosh, how many workups have we done for abdominal pain, right? Headaches. Those are often tension headaches, right? Neck pain. Oh yeah. Oh, the school bag's really heavy. Yes, it is. But we have really good range of motion, but it's just like they say, there's this, it really hurts here. I really feel like I can't move it. Yes, it's because most of the time you're walking around like this unconsciously. Everything that you encounter or may encounter is causing you stress and distress. So it's about emotional regulation, realizing what these physical symptoms are in the body, that they're a manifestation of your anxiety, and then going forward from there.
And sometimes the grades and the focus, I see that a lot of lack of focus. All of a sudden, there's a concern, maybe ADHD, because it's just so hard to focus and the grades start to dip. So those are all the signs, mamas and papas, to watch out for. Yeah. Now, you made a very good point about kids, like then teenagers decide they don't want to go to school. But I'll ask that question after this. But what are typical causes of anxiety that's unique to being a teenager?
There's so many pressures now, right? I mean, I think of back when I was teenager, there were pressures, but now there are pressures from every level. There's pressure from school for academic achievement. Sometimes the parents are contributing to that pressure, but often the overachievers academically are self-driven achievers, right? They are self-pushed, right? They never think anything less than an A or A plus is enough, right? They freak out at a B.
A minus.
Right. And then there's also athletics, right? We are training kids at the elementary school level for what would have been the training we had as in high school back in the day. So a lot of pressures around performance. Excuse me.
Good. Got some water. I was going to say.
And everyone worries about college. I mean, what are you going to do when you grow up? I mean, you're in middle school. I remind my middle schoolers, no one's going to look at your middle school grades. Go ahead and do your best, right? But nobody looks back at your middle school. So societal pressures, internal pressures, parental pressures, and then genetically, some people have that in their genetics. So you amplify it by whatever your environment is. So I feel like the kids are getting it from every angle. And what we need to do to help them as parents is, how do you modulate and self-regulate? How do you become self-aware, self-regulate, develop some self-compassion for yourself so that you go, oh, yeah, this is going on, but it's not the end of my world. And I always have an opportunity to get back up and try again. And failures are not failures. Failures are actually learning opportunities. I know we say that, right? But when something doesn't go our way, are we really thinking it's a learning opportunity? Maybe the next day, but in the immediate, you're going to tantrum. You're going to have to go through like the disappointment and the feelings, and that's okay. Feel your emotions, feel and allow it to pass through you, though. Don't get caught in it so that you're ruminating on it for days and then it becomes, this is who I am. I am a failure. No, you're not. You failed at something, but you're going to do better next time.
Yeah, normalizing challenges, normalizing, that's part of life. But there's one other thing that I wanted to add to that as far as causes with teenagers. Puberty. I've had some, I'm not blooming like my other classmates, or I've been working out, I'm not building the muscles, or, those who are open and share that with me. That sometimes is a stress. And I think it's very important to emphasize that, to remind parents, and this is not a bashing game or you're doing a bad job, is to remind our parents that we were once teenagers too. And some of these things were struggle. Now, not as much pressure as I think it is today as it was back in our time. I think it's a whole different with social media and everything. But to remind us that these are changes they're going through. And it's that's what they're going through, and so we can relate, we can put ourselves in their shoes and kind of see, okay, this is where they're at, how can I help them out of it? But let's go to the next question now. How do you help a teenager practically? There's a parent who's watching, a couple of parents who will watch a replay and say, how do I, give me skills, how do I connect with my teenager?
So that's so important, right? So we are all, as parents, because I'm the parent of two teenagers also, we're used to being their managers, right? All through elementary, middle school, we manage everything for them. Like, oh, here's sports practice, here's music lessons, here's dance lessons, and here's school, and I'm going to orchestrate it for you because I'm the manager of your life here. But when they become adolescents, and this is what puberty and adolescence is about, is that you are no longer their manager, and you need to get out of the driver's seat in your child's life, in your adolescent's life. You need to move over to the passenger seat, as I call it, and let them take control of the steering wheel, okay? And yes, oh my gosh, every once in a while, they're going to step on the gas pedal when they should have eased into it, or they slam on the brakes, okay? But that's all right. They aren't hurt. No one else has gotten hurt. It was a learning thing not to press on the gas pedal as you're going around the bend, okay? Or when you see an orange light, you have to make that split decision. Are you going through or are you going to stop? So all learning things, but that's what we are. We are there as their supporters, their coaches, as their assistants, their assistant manager. They are now in control. And you really, parents, I cannot emphasize how important that is. Your child does not need you to fix everything for them or to tell them the downside. Yes, share with them the facts. Drinking and driving is dangerous. Stay, be done. But what they need you to be is that quiet. Remember Batman? He had the butler, Alfred. be the butler for your child. Yeah. So be there for when they need you. Yeah. Be there to offer whatever it is they might want when they ask for it. Please don't jump to it and say, this is how I would do it. This is, and if you're going to give advice, please say, hey, and first validate what their thoughts are and they're saying, and then come back and say, so it sounds like this is really painful. Use their words and come back and say, would you like to hear my thoughts? Ask permission. Allow them to be in control as much as possible, right? The driver for anxiety is the feeling of lack of control. So when your child is with you, at least allow them to be in the power seat, the driver's seat, okay? They don't need you to fix everything. Sometimes they just need to be heard. They need to kind of, what I call is the brain dump. Get it out there, and then to hear it, it's so different than ruminating about it in their brain, right? Once they get it out there, sometimes that's all they needed. So be the listener for your child. Be the whiteboard for them, be there so that they can let it all out. But here's another thing. You model what your children learn. So if you're constantly like living under stress and clenched and everything is a life or death decision for you, well, guess what? That's what you've modeled for your children. And then let's say procrastination is a big part that drives anxiety for a lot of young adults, and they're putting things off. Show them that putting things off will temporarily make you feel better. Like, I don't really want to study for that exam because chemistry is not my favorite subject and it's onerous to me. But then they divert themselves, let's say, and they do something else for 1 or 2 hours on social media, and then they've lost 2 hours of studying time. By the time they do get started studying, it's much later. They're very stressed because they've lost 2 hours of study time. Don't tell them I told you so. Say, oh, I'm really sorry. That seems really hard. Maybe you'll remember this next time, but help them kind of come to their own aha moments. Model, like if I have a big task, I'm going to chunk it. I'm going to drop it into smaller buckets and do small accomplishments over time rather than waiting for the last minute, really feeling like I'm clenched and I have no option. I'm going to have to stay up all night. And that's another issue, right? Sleep hygiene. If you are not sleeping adequately and resting your mind, your reactive mind, your fight or flight or freeze response is hyper reactive the next day. So anything kind of tips you over the edge. You and I know that, right? I mean, as adults, my limit is anything less than 6 hours. I'm nearly just not that functional, I'm getting by, I'm surviving, but I am not thriving. When I get 7 to 8 hours, oh my gosh, my brain is clear. I can make sage and wise decisions and act wisely. Same thing with your young adults. And the thing is, maybe you model that for your young adults, that you're not going to bed at midnight, 1 or 2, and then getting up at 6 and attempting to have a full day, because that's probably not working for you. And they're feeding off of what they see you model, and they're feeding off of your energy. So your energy also has to be rather positive, rather calming for them, so that they can see, oh, mom or dad have multiple things, but they got it because they have prioritized, they have made schedules. They're not going to see that right away. It's just the day in and day out. And we all struggle with this, even as adults. And then model that self-compassion that you have for yourself when you make a mistake or things don't go as you would like them to go. You can even say out loud for yourself, like, that sucked, okay? That was awful, right? But at least, this is what I got out of it, all right? And now I know in the future, I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. So modeling So being there as the sounding board for your child, being all ears, being supportive, but only offering advice or help if they ask for it, modeling how you live and deal with stress and anxiety in your own life, those are the things that are most helpful, right? And then if you are thinking it's really encroaching on every part of their lives, and this is not the child that you've raised all these years, you can offer, hey, it seems like things are really seeming overwhelming, overburdened for you. Do you think you'd like to talk with someone or seek some help with a counselor? You know, gentle words, and say, just think about it. Let me know. My door is always open.
Mm.
When it's there, then, and when you're ready, let me know. A few things though, I will say, you do want to help them deal with their anxiety in the moment. One of the things that I teach my patients is breathing. And that's not for everyone, but we know physiologically when you slow down your breathing, you really slow down the sympathetic response, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response. And you move your body into the more calmer parasympathetic nervous system where, things are much more paced and you make wiser choices. So breathing is so key, and everybody breathes. I always tell my teenagers, you're already breathing. All we're asking is that you slow it down a little bit, right? And my favorite breathing technique is tracing your fingers. So imagine that your index finger of one hand is a choo-choo train. So it's a steam engine. It moves really slow. As you trace your finger on the upswing of your thumb, you're breathing in, and then you pause at the top and slowly exhale as you trace your finger down. And so again, as we're going up, slowly inhale, pause, slowly exhale. Choo-choo train. Inhale slowly, pause, slowly exhale. Inhale slowly, pause, slowly exhale.
Mm.
Inhale, slowly, pause, exhale. And if you did that with me, you got 4 or 5 breaths in there. And I am going to ask, did you feel any difference? Did you feel a little calmer? Most likely you did. Give us a comment if you tried it and see if it helped. Now, not all youngsters want to do breathing because they're like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
with a choo-choo train, like, dude, choo-choo who? Yeah.
Right. So the other thing I say is, hey, how about movement then? Get up and move. Turn on the music, your favorite dance, and move. What's your favorite song? I don't know. I put on the Will Ferrell song, The Happy from the Little Minions, when I'm needing some more, like I'm starting to feel anxious about something. Put that on, move and groove for maybe a minute in my office. I do this with my patients too. And oh my gosh, they feel better instantaneously, because it's really hard to be clenched when you're grooving with the music and you're
That
dancing around, right?
is
I
true.
mean, can you feel it right now? You're like, oh yeah. Or get up. All right, so you're not a dancer, you're a male adolescent, and you're like, what are you talking about, Dr. T? I say, well, then get up and do some jumping jacks, do
There you go.
burpees, I don't care, raise your heart rate. Okay, you will actually physically move your body to the other side, to the other more sage, wise mind there. Or laughter. We forget, right? I mean, teenagers are all about things that are hilarious, right? So if have them save a couple of things on YouTube, right? That always make you laugh. For me, it's like goofy dog videos. I'm like, really? I have that at an instant. I'll just go on Instagram and I'll look at a couple of reels of dogs doing goofy things, and I'm bursting out in laughter. It's hilarious, right? Yeah, laughter will kick it out for you. Or social connection, all right? I mean, we forget that. I mean, when we're in our zone of anxiety, of fear about everything and judgment, what we're worried about is that everybody's judging me. Everybody's looking at me. I'm like, no, all the other teenagers, they're too busy like looking at themselves, It's the me, I, and myself channel. You think they really have time to look around and judge you?
Mm.
Absolutely not. Let it go. But seek out connection, because you might find that your bestie or your friend is also thinking everybody else, and you're like, I don't know, I didn't even see that dress that you had on, or that shirt. It's like, oh, it's actually pretty cool. So easy things: you breathe, you move, you dance, you listen to music, go out in nature. Some people are nature lovers, people who just enjoy nature. Time in nature really calms you down, but different things depending on where that moment is for you. But you have to have a couple of tools right there for you to do as you're feeling it in some part of your body that it's your angst creeping up on you. It's that stomach ache, it's that throat feeling, it's that head feeling. It's like elephants sitting on your shoulders. When you start feeling that, you have to have an immediate tool that you're going to call and use.
Awesome, awesome. A lot of helpful tips. Very, 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 very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you do. I'll just add one. Remind them also of their past victories, things they were afraid of and did well, and let them leverage some strength from that, because that's very important. Now, that being said, Doc, I have people who are watching who are like, "Wow, Doctor T, I like her." Where can people connect, and how can people connect with you, Doc?
I'm on Instagram, Dr. Terry Nguyen, so Dr. period TerrynNguyen, Nguyen, on Instagram. I also have a webpage that talks about what I do, and it's www.resilientmd, all lowercase, .org. I am starting an immersive 6-week program next week on Tuesday, September 27th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and that is 7 p.m. my time, so 6 p.m. Central time. And it's an hour. It's an immersive program that's a hands-on learning experience in a group of adolescents, and we go through what's at the cause of your anxiety, what's at the root of your anxiety, what's causing it, learning the self-awareness, learning the tools on how to use your sage mind. So it's a mind reframe, mind reset, very interactive. This is not school. It's meant to be fun. We will do things where they have to get up and move. And the group idea is to encourage support and motivation, and hold you accountable. It's going to be weird when you show up the next week and a couple of your peers are like, oh, I did X, Y, or Z, and you're like, I didn't do anything. So we do use a little bit of that peer pressure to help push the adolescents forward. So it's fun. It's not school. It's just 1 hour once a week over 6 weeks. And we know that it takes 21 days to build new habits. So
Yep,
we've added some
yep.
extra time in there, right? So 6 weeks to build something that would be 21 days to build a habit. And then we go forward. And in the future, I'm thinking of doing regroups like every month or every 2 months to keep up with what they've learned and make sure that they're still living what they learned.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll be sure to post a link of that program at the end of this live so our viewers have access to it live or in replay. All right. But thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come and pour into our viewers. This has been very, very helpful. Please, for those who are watching, share with those who can find this useful. And if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a passionate family physician here in the city of Mansfield, Texas, I am she. Have a good one. Thank you all for watching. This is good.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Tolu. It was a
My
pleasure.
likewise, likewise.
All right. Happy Monday, everyone.
Bye.